Also joining us is Neil Harbison. Neil is an artist and activist, and he's also the world's first legally recognized cyborg. His antenna implanted into his skull allows him to perceive colors through audible vibrations. Neil identifies himself both as a cyborg and as trans species, which means he feels that he is technology and he no longer feels 100% human. Neil is a co-founder of the Cyborg Foundation, which is an international organization that helps humans become cyborgs, defends cyborg rights, and promotes cyborg art. He also co-founded the Trans Species Society, which aims to platform voices of people with non-human identities. And also, David's portrait of Neil is on the cover of the latest issue of British Journal of Photography, which came out today. It also includes an interview with David and Jem about their work. You can order a copy on the BJP shop or subscribe to the magazine through an 1854 membership. We're also going to be hearing more from Neil about his artistic practice before moving on to an open discussion, which will then be followed by an audience Q&A. But first, David and Jem are going to introduce you to their work, which is currently on show at the festival. So I will hand it over to you guys.
And it starts with industries and individuals in a really meaningful way. And also, I think because we all know we're in a rate of unprecedented sort of evolution with technology, that's obviously having a huge impact on this. And so this project kind of documents this critical moment in human history where we are moving forward into a new chapter. So the work that you can see on the screen now kind of demonstrates a myriad of ways of how our brains and bodies could be revolutionized and redefined through collaborating with technology, essentially. So this project is about transhumanism, but it's also about futurists. So not everybody in the project believes they are a transhuman. But the profiles of transhumans specifically, which is probably what we're going to talk about a lot tonight, are so diverse. They're everybody from artists to CEOs, academics, bedroom hackers. And I think it's kind of interesting to think about how this project started because it was very much by happenstance. So as an art director, my job was to kind of be very creatively open and to generate ideas that I would then collaborate with photographers like David. And so I was always seeking experiences outside of my own sphere of influence, if you like. And I basically found myself in a basement.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here in Belfast virtually. My father's from Belfast, my grandparents are from Belfast, so I'm happy to do something in Belfast for the first time, even if it's virtually. I'll just briefly talk about my work. It starts from an interest in other species, not an interest in science fiction or the future or cyborgs. Me as a child, I was very interested in the amount of organs and senses that other species have. Some animals can sense infrasound, some others ultrasounds, infra colors or ultraviolets. Some animals can sense where the magnetic north is. There's animals with electroception. So I was really fascinated about the amount of senses and organs that other animals have. And I was particularly interested in sense of color, how many animals could sense colors that we humans could not sense. And I was interested in color because I've never seen color. So I was interested in finding a way of sensing color myself. That's why in 2003, I created a project with a friend in order to create a new organ that would allow me to sense colors. But I didn't want to change my sight, so I didn't want to do anything with my sight. I wanted to create a new way of sensing color. And then we created an antenna, which is now implanted in my head, and it allows me to sense the vibrations of color from infrared to ultraviolet. So the dominant color in front of me enters the antenna and it vibrates inside my head. First, this system was a wearable. So we created it as a wearable in 2003. And then I tried to find a way of having it surgically implanted. And then I found a doctor willing to drill my skull so that the system would be surgically implanted inside my head. So I see this as a cyborg surgery or a trans-species surgery because it's basically adding senses and organs that are not traditionally human. So now the antenna is officially part of my body, part of my skeleton. So it's impossible to remove. Also, the internet connection in my head now allows me to also receive colors from other parts of the world. don't have to sense the colors in front of me alone. I can also receive colors from the internet. So this allows me to extend my senses beyond my body. So I can be sensing colors that are far away from me, even from other continents, or from friends that can send colors to my head through their mobile phones. So I see this as the use of the internet as a sense. We've been using the internet as a communication system and as a tool for many decades now, but I think the next stage is that we'll start seeing the use of the internet as a sense itself. This connection also allows me to connect to NASA's International Space Station. And when I do this, my sense of color is no longer in Earth, but in space. So this allows me to explore the colors from space without having to physically go there. I see this as becoming a senstronaut, which is basically that we can now explore space without having to physically travel to space. If we all had senses or our bodies connected to sensors in space, we would be able to explore space continuously without having to physically go there. After some months of hearing colors and merging with technology, I stopped feeling the difference between the software and my brain. And that's when I started defining myself as a cyborg, because I started to feel that I wasn't using or wearing technology. I started to feel that I was becoming technology. So when I stopped feeling this difference between software and brain is when I started defining myself as a cyborg. And that's something that I tried to explain to the UK passport office in 2004, because I didn't allow me to renew my passport photo. They said there was a problem with the photo, that electronic equipment is not allowed in passport photos. I replied saying that I felt that I was a cyborg and that I treated the antenna as an organ, not as a device or an electronic equipment. In the end, they accepted this explanation and they allowed me to appear in the passport with the antenna. I'm now also in conversations with the Swedish government because the materials that I used to create the antenna are Swedish. So I'm telling them that I am Swedish because part of my body is Swedish. So I think I should also be entitled to become a Swedish citizen because part of my body is Swedish, but they still haven't replied. In 2010, I created the Cyborg Foundation with Monribas to help other people become cyborgs. So we created several projects in universities where we create systems that can be applied to the body in order to have new senses. And also we defend the cyborg rights, which are basically these ones. One of the basic ones is freedom of morphology, freedom from being disassembled, the right of treating these new implants as body parts, also the right to decide who's allowed to enter our bodies. So having internet connection makes us vulnerable to being physically hacked. So we need the right to decide who is allowed to enter our bodies. Through all these years, I've only been hacked once, but I actually liked it. It was an interesting experience. But if it was a bad experience, then we should have rights that protect us. And last is that we are all equal, no matter how many modifications you have. I think that we will see cyborg clinics in the near future, and it will be a huge change. We will see more people merging with technologies once we have these bioethical committees accepting these types of surgeries. For now, all these surgeries need to be done by anonymous doctors, mine as well. So my surgery was not accepted by a bioethical committee because it goes beyond the limitations of human perception. Sensing infrareds and ultraviolets, they didn't see this as ethical. Having a new body part, such as an antenna, they didn't find this as ethical. So I think that once we find a country accepting these types of surgeries, we will see the world's first cyborg clinics, and then we will see more people merging with technology. Creating new senses gives you new experiences, and new experiences gives you new knowledge. I think this is something that we should be conscious about, that having new senses will eventually give us new knowledge of our surroundings. All knowledge comes through our senses. So the more senses we have, the more possibilities of gaining knowledge of reality and of ourselves we will have. So I think it is ethical to add new senses. Also, the more we modify ourselves, the less we'll have to modify our planet. If we all had night vision, for example, we wouldn't have to use artificial light. All cities would be dark at night, and we would be able to see ourselves without having to spend energy creating artificial light. Or if we could create an organ that would allow us to control our own temperature, we wouldn't have to use heaters or air conditionings. We wouldn't change the temperature of our planet if we could change our own temperature. So I think it will slowly be seen as ethical that the more we decide to design ourselves, the better it will be, not only for us, but also for the planet. Also, new senses creates new cultures. In my case, hearing colors has changed the way I dress, for example. Now I can dress in C major, in F minor, or in a melody because I hear the vibrations of color. So I can dress in a way that it sounds good. I can also paint what I hear. This is Mozart's Queen of the Night. So I've painted it note by note from the middle to the end. This is Baby Baby by Justin Bieber, also transposed into color. I can also compose music with food, so I can eat songs. So I call this sonochromatic gastronomy, where you can, here you see the chef creating a dish that sounds good. So basically by placing the colors on the plate and with the same chip inside the plate, you can actually hear the sound of the colors. I don't see this as AI, I see this as AS. So in my case, the antenna is an artificial sense, not artificial intelligence. If the antenna was telling me the names of colors, if the antenna was saying blue, yellow, pink, that would be AI. But I didn't want technology to give me intelligence. I wanted technology to give me a sense. So when you merge with an artificial sense, the intelligence will be created by your brain, and it will be a slow process. So when you merge with AI, the intelligence is given to you by the machine. When you merge with AS, the intelligence will slowly be created by your own brain. Other people merged with artificial senses are Pau Prats, Manel de Aguas, Joe Dagny, Moon Rivas, Kylander, and there's more and more. Moon, for example, had the seismic sense where she could feel earthquakes. Joe has echolocation, so he can feel presence around him. Manel de Aguas has two fins here to sense the weather. Pau Prats can sense ultraviolet levels, and Kylander has the cosmic sense, so he can feel cosmic rays. We don't see this as virtual reality. The reality that we've created through these senses is not augmented either. We see it as a revealed reality. It's technology that is revealing parts of reality that already exists, but that our bodies cannot sense. So in a way, merging with technology allows us to reconnect with nature, and it allows us to sense parts of nature that we as a species have never been able to sense or have lost through the thousands of years. Most of us identify more as trans species, not so much as transhuman. Transhumans are usually more human-centered, whereas trans species are more eco-centered. In our case, we are not trying to become better humans. We are trying to reconnect with nature, and we try to get closer to other species, because adding senses that other species have can actually allow us to reconnect with other species in a way that we haven't through all these years. I think we've isolated ourselves as a species, and this is something that we want to break by adding senses and organs that other species have. In my case, having an antenna makes me feel closer to other species that have antennas, or sensing infrared and ultraviolet allows me to feel closer to species that have ultraviolet and infrared perception as well. Now, the last project is adding this cyborg art in the crypto art. So we are actually, the last project, we've sold connection to our bodies in the form of an NFT. So we are merging crypto art with cyborg art by selling access to our bodies in the form of an NFT. So connection to my antenna is now in the blockchain, and it will be there forever until I die. And also artist Paul Lombardi has sold access to his heart through an NFT as well. So the person that buys his NFT can see his heartbeats live, and also can interact with his heart, so that he can, or the person that buys the NFT can see how he or she alters the other person's heart. We see this as art, the art of creating new senses, new organs, and the art of modifying our perception of reality. But we know that this has also a social aspect. It's an art that has social implications, and we are also concerned that we need to be careful in how we use technology. Hopefully, we will use it to reconnect with nature and with other species, and it will allow us to, as I said before, to stop changing the planet and start changing ourselves in order to adapt ourselves to the planet and to nature. Thank you.
On the animals again.
Thank you so much, Neil. Can everyone see me? Yeah, there we go. Hello, thank you so much. Again, I'm sure everyone has some questions for Neil. So please write them in the little